Um, when we encounter Jesus, we run into love in action, not as a concept, not as an idea, but we run into love in action, and we're accepted just the way we are, which is wonderful, and it's a life-giving and life-changing experience, especially those of us that have been searching and slaving for acceptance and a sense of self-worth all our lives. The need for acceptance, to regard yourself as worthwhile is it's crucial to our emotional health, our spiritual health, our social well-being. It's a basic drive within the human spirit. And we all long for it. And we'll do just about anything to get it. And millions and millions of people spend, a lifetime searching for acceptance and self-worth. People like Michael Jackson or Philip Seymour Hoffman, are tragic examples, of what can happen when our search is unsuccessful. Well, today I want to look at a story from Mark's Gospel, about the power of God's acceptance. Okay? And it's, in Mark, the 2nd chapter, we read this. Once again, Jesus was out beside the lake. A large crowd came to him, and he began to teach them. As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector's booth. Now, Levi, was a tax man. See? And, some jobs in life require particularly thick skin, because they're so unpleasant. One of those jobs was being a tax collector. See? Back in the 1st century, in Roman-occupied Palestine, here, think about the way we feel about traffic officers, that hand out parking tickets, but only worse. See, think about the abuse. An Afghan traffic officer working for the U.S. government, ticketing cars in Kabul would get. Okay? Suppose those parking laws were recently imposed, and the people who park their cars in the same spot day after day, week after week, now found themselves paying hefty fines. See? Think of the anger, think of the resentment that would be heaped on that officer day in and day out. You traitor, you lowlife, blah, 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 blah. Carl told me not to curse today. I promised him I wouldn't. Pity the officer, in that position. Can you only imagine? Now you can start to feel maybe what it must have been like to be in Matthew the tax collector's shoes. As far as the Jews were concerned, tax collectors were the scum of the earth. And it didn't help that most of them were also crooks. Every day, Matthew had to sit at his booth, taking in the anger, the resentment, the rejection, into his own heart and soul. Okay? He couldn't have been a very happy camper, right? Along comes Jesus. Follow me, Jesus told him, and Levi got up and followed him. Jesus didn't shout, didn't swear, didn't give him any grief. He does something totally unexpected. He treats him like a human being. Treats him with decency. Okay? Jesus offers an invitation that Matthew apparently, gladly accepts. And in Matthew's gospel, when he tells the story, that phrase, he got up and followed, that phrase in the original language is the same word used for resurrection. Yeah. Which is to say that this is a life-changing moment from Matthew. And apparently, Matthew goes and shares this good news of this extraordinary encounter that he's had with his friends, who were also outcasts. Birds of a feather flock together. And so they decide, what else? Let's celebrate. Let's throw a party. And that's what they do. They invite Jesus and the disciples, and Jesus accepts. See? You see, Jesus' acceptance of Matthew has resurrected him to new life. See, and this calls for a celebration. But it also causes a scandal. See? And it gets Jesus in trouble. So we read this. While Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. When the teachers of the law, who were the Pharisees, saw him eating with the sinners and tax collectors, they asked his disciples, why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners? Oy vey. Now, it doesn't make much sense to us today, but in Jesus' day, what you ate and who you ate it with was a very big deal. See, for the Jews, eating together was literally, a religious experience. Okay? So they had very specific rules about, who you ate with and what happened around that table. Okay? A proper Jewish meal was sacred. Okay? They turned an ordinary detail of everyday life into an act of worship. But the problem was that it also divided and excluded some people from that table. See, Jesus offended a lot of strict Jews with his table manners. He ignored the finger bowl by his plate. He ate whatever was put in front of him. He ate with the wrong people. He thought nothing of sitting down to eat with filthy people whose lives declared their contempt for religion. Okay? People saw him eating and they knew, who he was. Someone who had lost all sense of decency, who apparently condoned sin by eating with sinners and was an embarrassment, to his own family. Okay. So today, You know, if I were putting together a similar sinner's table, so to speak, at some fancy restaurant, it might include an abortion doctor, a pedophile, a radical Islamic, a panhandler, a young gay man with AIDS, a Laotian chicken plucker, and a crack addict, and an unmarried woman on welfare with 5 children from 3 different men. Okay. Did I miss anybody? I don't know. What do you think? And and then you would put Jesus at the head of the table, you see, asking the young man to hand him a roll, please, and offering the doctor a second cup of coffee before she has to head off back to the clinic. Yeah. And if that offends you even a little bit, makes you a little queasy and uneasy, you're beginning to understand what's going on here. See? It gets even more uncomfortable than that, because into the restaurant comes the local ministerium. You see, a group of local pastors, and they sit at the table right next to the right across from the sinner's table, right? And these are good guys. They're clean, well dressed, well mannered. Their food arrives. They hold hands, and they pray, and they're nice people, but they can hardly eat, their food without staring at the strange crowd sitting at the next table. The chicken plucker is still wearing her hairnet. The panhandler stinks. The addict can't find his mouth because he's nodding out, But worst of all, Jesus is sitting there as if everything's fine. Doesn't he know what kind of message he's sending? Who's going to believe that he speaks for God? See? If he doesn't keep better company. There was an old Jewish proverb, that says, I saw them eating and I knew who they were. See, that's what was going on here. They sized them up by the company that he kept. See? So now you start to get the picture. Or maybe not, because shockingly, this actually is a picture of God's kingdom. How it operates. And so Jesus answers their sneering criticism. Okay? On hearing this, Jesus said to them, "It is not the healthy that need a doctor, but the sick. And I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." He presents himself as a kind of doctor, a doctor throwing a party. Okay? Why a doctor? Because he went around healing people, not just people with physical problems, okay? But people like Matthew, okay? Whose wounds were invisible, who had become social outcasts. But why a party? Okay? Jesus often pictured the kingdom as a wedding feast, right? That everyone, people from all walks of life, were invited to. He pictured the kingdom as a homecoming of sorts. See, remember the story of the prodigal son? See? Whose father was so overwhelmed with joy that he throws a great big shindig for his wayward son. That's a picture of the kingdom. Unfortunately, though, not everyone is happy about it. Not everyone shows up at the party. Some have better things to do. Some ignore it. Some refuse because they're offended by the guests. And so that's tragic. It breaks God's heart. Because his son, the great physician, has provided a way for everyone, even the most despicable sinners, to get in. And Jesus is not a social or religious arsonist. You know what I mean? He's only being true to his calling to be a doctor of souls. See? There's no point for a doctor to only be hanging out with healthy people, is there? The doctor must, be with the sick that recognize that they need help. So what do we learn from this encounter with Jesus? Well, one of the things that stands out to me is that Christianity is not a religion for winners only. There's a place for the weak. There's a place for the broken. And this story declares that Jesus is on the side of the mistreated. He's on the side of the underdog, the outcast, the rejects, the losers. He's on the side of sinners like you and me. It also reminds me that to encounter Jesus is to run into God's love, his forgiveness, and his acceptance. That despite living in an increasingly dehumanizing culture, God's eye, God views each one of us, each human being, as valuable and significant. There are no ordinary people. There are no marginal people in God's eyes. And he finds us so valuable. He finds every person. The people, the invisible people that you walk. Well, in New York, we walk every place. But you drive by every day that are on the side of the road, maybe panhandling or do something. The invisible people in the mall that are standing on the side that, they're different than you. They make you feel a little uncomfortable because they're different. They're not quite right, And those invisible people that we don't recognize, God recognizes them as just as valuable. And so valuable that he would send his son Jesus to die on a cross for them as well as for you. There are no ordinary people in God's eyes. And so this story challenges you as a church, as a community of the Spirit, with God's heart and Jesus dwelling here. You being his living temple here in this area challenges you to be a community that's something like Matthew's party. A place where everybody is welcome. Even those people that are different than you, that, they eat different food, they speak a different language, they smell different, they see life different. A place where people can experience love, forgiveness, and acceptance, despite where they come from, despite what they look like, despite what they've done. And I think most importantly, this story it's an encouragement to those of you sitting here right now that have faced rejection and have been wounded by it. And you live with that every day. Maybe you've been sitting at the booth, slaving for acceptance, like Matthew. Searching for a sense of self-worth. Jesus offers it to you right now. Right in this moment. You don't have to do anything. You need to believe it. You need to grab a hold of it right now. That's what the Holy Spirit is bringing to you right now. If you make him the leader of your life, if you'll surrender and make him the leader, and follow him, he offers you, he throws wide open the kingdom where there are, where people are not judged by their gender, that are not, or by the color of their skin, or their social status, or their looks, or their intelligence, or their success or failures. They're not judged by their sinfulness or their righteousness, but by God's grace and his love alone. So will you accept his invitation for you? Let's stand. We sang some songs this morning that, I'm with you, it wrecked me. Because this whole idea of that I am accepted and loved just the way I am. And there's a lot of things about me I don't like. But he loves me. Oh, how he loves me. And it ruins me, wrecks me. It's so sweet, but it's also hard to take. I know how that is. You need to let him love you right now. You need to stop pushing him away. You got to stop that right now. Please. Holy Spirit, come. Come. We sit at your feet right now and accept the gift of your love right now. And your acceptance and your forgiveness. Come. Come. There are three kind of like groups or kind of situations that I think I'd love I think the Lord really, really does want to help this morning. Okay, there's all kinds of needs that he can take care of, but I think in particular I'd like to call you out and get prayer. Okay, first of all, though, I believe he wants to heal or begin to heal, because it's going to be a process for many of you. Heal the wounds of rejection, maybe from childhood, maybe from maybe you've been hurt by religion and by the Christian church itself, but he wants to start to heal those wounds. Let him. Maybe it's, again, there's all different reasons why we get hurt. But I believe that he wants to help you this morning. Another situation or group that I really think that this story about Matthew opens, offers hope, is, those of us that have judged and rejected others because we just don't understand them, because they're different, they scare us, or whatever, because they're really bad people, or whatever. But we make judgments all the time, and he wants us to stop that. He wants to so that you can become a participant in this new kind of community, that is more like Matthew's party. He wants that for you. So maybe you recognize, wow, I do that a lot, Well, I believe that you can get help, and God will help change that for you. And then the third one is just God is doing some wonderful things. There are some wonderful stories here. And he wants you to share your story. Just the way Matthew shared his story. You have people around you that are waiting to hear the wonderful story of God in your life and what the love and acceptance and forgiveness of Jesus has done for you. And you just need some courage and you just need some help there. And I think he wants to help you. Those of you that are, want to share your story, but you're just a little reluctant and you're just a little timid. He wants to help you this morning to be like Matthew. Now, if you recognize any of those three things, would you come on up? And I think the prayer people will be here to meet you. And I want to just pray, end with a general prayer, but would you come on out? And if I didn't hit your need, but you feel, God, I need something this morning, Mike didn't mention it, but I need it, come on up. Come on up. Get what you need. All right? I'm going to pray for you guys. Thank you for being your worship is worth the price of the ticket right here, man. The presence of God that comes. It's not, you couldn't get the first song right a little bit, but that was cool, But God shows up so powerfully, man. His sweet presence. And you have so much to offer people. You have so much to offer. Just the presence of God here. Open up the doors, man. Fling them wide open. Get everybody to come. Lord, I just thank you for your presence with us and that brings hope, Lord, and healing and unity. Oh, Lord, and I pray for the river. I pray that, Lord, that this will become the people here that join together will become a sign of the kingdom because there's so many different types of people, all from all different walks of life that are represented all around this place. That this will be a place where anybody can come and be loved and meet Jesus and discover that they too are valuable in the eyes of God. In Jesus' strong and powerful name, I pray that. Amen. Come on up for prayer.